Hi folks, I'm Jason Lowith, Artistic Director of Olney Theater Center. We plan to release the second installment of the Olney Home Hour Seasons of Justice as our way of celebrating the Martin Luther King Jr. holiday. But given recent events here in the Capital Region, producer Chris Eustra widely made the decision to delay the program's release until later in the spring. With some distance, we hope that the impact of Seasons of Justice, seasons which have no beginning and have no end, will be greater, and we'll all be better able to hear what the artists of the Olney Home Hour have to say. But on behalf of your theater, I didn't want this moment and the holiday to pass unrecognized. This flag flew above the United States Capitol 40 years ago on July 30th, 1981. I was given this flag on the occasion of my bar mitzvah, the Jewish ceremony that marks one's passage to adulthood. And it's the time when one accepts responsibility for upholding and obeying the rule of law. It is one of my most prized possessions. 6 years after the flag flew there, I attended my first protest rally on the steps of the Capitol. Early on the morning of December 6th, 1987, I took a bus to Washington to join my voice with 250,000 others demanding the right of Jews to emigrate from the Soviet Union, where they were denied the basic freedoms that we in America enjoy. The next day at the White House, at the start of a summit that would ultimately change the course of history, Ronald Reagan said to Mikhail Gorbachev, "Yesterday I had 250,000 people in my backyard saying, 'Let my people go.' Until you do what they want, nothing will happen." We've heard it many times, but the words of Martin Luther King Jr. always are worth repeating. The arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends towards justice. More than 30 years ago, I'm still proud knowing that I got to play the tiniest role then in bending that arc. But I will tell you, through the course of this pandemic, I've had some pretty tough days, wondering how I can keep working for justice when my professional and artistic voice has been silenced. I've thought often of the characters from In the Heights, singing "We Are Powerless" in the dark moments before dawn. And I never felt more powerless than on January 6th, when the Capitol was overrun by domestic terrorists. Justice had never felt so far away, and I felt more like a powerless bystander to history than at any time in my life. But the moral universe works in mysterious ways. The morning after the attack on the Capitol, I was walking the dogs, and I ran into our neighbor Greg, who was walking his pup, a mutt named Fedya. We spoke about the attack, and I mentioned my first protest at the Capitol. Then, weirdly, he thanked me. It turns out Greg is Jewish, and he was a 5-year-old refusnik in the Soviet Union back in 1987. His family emigrated in the early 90s after the fall of the Iron Curtain. I told him that the real thanks were due to him and his family, who put their lives on the line to fight for justice. All I did was sit on a bus for 6 hours. Still, he thanked me. The arc of the moral universe is indeed long, but if we each take on whatever role it's in our power to play, it will always bend towards justice. Even while we're close to live performances, your theater is playing its role. Just hours before the attack on the Capitol, we released an important statement on our website and social media pages: Olney Theater Center, Social Justice, and Becoming Anti-Racist. I encourage you to visit www.olneytheater.org to learn how we're working to make the world and your theater a more just and equitable place. So today, Martin Luther King Jr. Day, I'll be thinking about that work. I'll be thinking of Greg, his refusnik family, and their hard-won freedom. I'll be thinking of the thousands of colleagues and friends around the country toiling in theaters like ours, demanding justice through the stories they tell. I'll remember the story Soviet dissident Natan Sharansky told on that bitter cold day in 1987 of his own fight for freedom. And I'll remember the 250,000 people unified in their pursuit of a better world who surrounded me that day. Together, we lifted each other up. In our darkest days, let's remember we are not alone, that justice will come, that we can bring it about little by little, action by action, show by show, community by community. As the powerful play goes on, let's make sure we all contribute the most beautiful, equitable verse we can. Thanks for listening, and happy holidays.